Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here for the Kevin Jackson Show, KJRadio.com. I want to, we should probably do this daily. I should go through my Twitter feed and just let you guys see what people are talking about. And one of the most profound things that was said, and it's not that profound. It's pretty straightforward. But one of the things that came in my Twitter feed was a woman who said, "Hey, why don't we mandate that all government employees must transfer to Obamacare? Period. If it's the law of the land, who better to have it than the government employees?" That's what, a million employees, 1.2 million. If government employees had to have Obamacare, you could be guaranteed they'd be screaming at the top of their lungs. And let me tell you why. The government employs black people overwhelmingly. In fact, it's practically reverse discrimination at the rate that the government employs black folks. And to force them to have to get that crappy insurance and have to go through all the things that we have to go through would drive them nuts. When I say we, I'm saying the people that are against it, not we white folks, because I ain't white, I'm black. Because there are black people going, see, I was a slip of the tongue. No, I was not putting myself into the category of white. I was putting myself into the category of I hate Obamacare. And there's a reason why I hate Obamacare. I don't hate it because we put Obama's name on it. I hate it because it cost me $30,000 and has brought me nothing. But that was one of the things that came out as in the thing. Glen Campbell died the other day. Did you guys hear about this? That was in my Twitter feed. I made some notes. I got to tell you, Glen Campbell had one of the best voices. Forget the kind of music he sang. He had one of the best voices, kind of the Garth Brooks of his time. And I remember the song Lineman for the County. You remember that? I was a lineman for the county. Something like that. Beautiful song. And I don't even remember the lyrics for most of them or anything like that. I just remember him having a really smooth voice. And supposedly he was an amazing guitarist. And I was thinking about Glen Campbell and the idea that he ended up with Alzheimer's. And I want you to just think for a second, you're a person who's got songs that you sing, you've written, and history of, and every time I hear a Glen Campbell song, even I could say the same thing with, what's his name that died in a plane crash? Saying, country road, take me home. John Denver, to the place I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama. Anyway, but Glen Campbell, when I hear these guys sing, it isn't that because I can tell you right now, I never thoroughly enjoyed their music per se. Glen Campbell I did kind of because I grew up listening to country, and Glen Campbell was one of the guys that I listened to, but it was by force. By the time, and I could say the same thing about John Denver, but he was more folk, I guess, and I was a grown-up by the time I either could have listened to him or not. And as it turned out, one of my buddies was his guitar player for years, Steve Weisberg. And so I got to know, a lot of the music through Steve. But anyway, here's my point. With Glen, when I hear either one of those guys, it gives me this feeling, this love of America. The open spaces and having been a kid who grew up in the country, I can so appreciate him. Anyway, Glen Campbell died, and it's very sad that occurred. But hey, we all got to go. But I think the saddest thing for me is the fact that Glen Campbell doesn't even remember his life. Alzheimer's is such a cruel disease. And every time I hear somebody diagnosed with it, it's a death of sorts when they're not even dying. By the time that you have to deal with it as a human, as a family member dealing with them. I can't even imagine I can't imagine because I had an aunt and an uncle that had Alzheimer's. And interestingly, when they would remember enough to know me, so it wasn't like I lost them. Any memories going forward were gone, but the past they remembered. So I didn't experience Alzheimer's the way some people do. If you have a relative going through that, or if you're going through it yourself, you have my deepest sympathy, because that's what we want to remember. It was funny. I was thinking about life and death, and I lose a friend. And I take it hard. I take life and death hard. And my relatives would die, and I'd just be a sobbing mess at funerals. And my brother, for example, was very strong at funerals. And I tell the story often about how strong he was when my great grandfather died. I was a wreck. I mean, just trying not to cry, but, crying, my eyes bloodshot red. And I mean, I'm one of the strongest, toughest guys in the family. And I just was like a little baby. And I don't mind telling you that. But here's the thing. Selfishly, it was because my grandfather, my great-grandfather, Papa, knew so much about me. And he would remind me of who I was. And I was going to miss that there was somebody that would prop me up and make me feel good and give me that strength. Of course, I learned that, they're gone and you still feel that way about them. But, to have my grandfather, for example, who passed away years ago at the age of roughly 92, when he would talk of me to other people, it was with an esteem that whoa, that's my grandfather telling people about me. And it became selfish to want to hold on to these people. Like, hey, they know all your stories, Kevin. How sad is that? I mean, talk about having some growing up to do. And now don't misunderstand me. When I cry at funerals, I cry at other people's funerals. I don't even know these people. So I know there's a thing inside of me that just feels that sympathy for the family and all that. But I'm just being honest with you. There's another side of me that just misses the fact that here's a person that knew me. One of my best friends, Mike, died at the early age of 48 years old. And I just remember feeling such a sense of loss of a person who knew me we knew each other for 28 years. And when he died, up to the point that he died. And I was like, Mike knows all my stories. He knows my history. This is a guy that couldn't believe I would even be his friend. And I'm telling you guys this because I'm trying to, I'm being honest with you that I did have this. There's a part of me that was like, Mike knows that I was a really good student. I have people say all the time, oh, you probably weren't this or that. And I was like, well, I don't exactly have it on video, but I was that. I was that athlete. I was that student. I was that guy that did the right thing, and tried to do the right thing in most of the things and live this life that I had been taught. And the people that know that are now gone. So what do you do? And I know that was a feeling I had when I learned that Mike had died. I mean, there was other things too, as I mentioned before. But it was a selfish reason. And so I finally come to the conclusion, wait a minute. You have the rest of your life to live and more people to remind, people about yourself. And by the way, Kevin Jackson, while you're lecturing yourself here, buddy, it's not about you. Who cares that those memories are gone? I don't know, but when I think about the time frame of some of these people that we lose, and I think about those moments in life that, from where I grew up on this cattle ranch, this little poor kid, learning all about life in the country and having experienced what I think is just a childhood every kid should be required to go through because they would think differently about themselves. They would never have a feeling of being a loser or I can't accomplish anything. There was nothing that I couldn't do. I was a 10-year-old kid running around a 25,000-acre ranch that was loaded with things that could kill me, and I survived it. It's crazy. And I got through it in the most unconventional way because, I'm growing up listening to Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson and, people like that. I wasn't on the street, learning the new dances and the new slang and, and all that. I got little snippets of other culture America. I knew it existed. When we'd go on the weekends to visit family, I'd certainly be a part of it. And you're probably wondering, Kevin, what in the world? And when are you going to get back to politics? This is politics. It's that thing that why are you holding on to this vestige of something, right? Glen Campbell died. Yeah, Glen Campbell died. That's where this segment started. Yeah, it sure did. And it's a reminder to a lot of people of a time of them growing up and wondering, what was life going to bring? And now it's changed. Country music has changed. I remember when country music, it was all about, everybody in country music practically was somebody that you could emulate. They were, don't misunderstand me, rabble-rousers. Who was it? I think wasn't Jennings in prison? And a couple other guys. Willie Nelson's a dope smoker. I'm not saying they're all great guys, but there was a time when it reminded you of Americana. Country music doesn't do that for me anymore. Anyway, hey, Glen Campbell's gone. We're going to miss him. I think most people will. And the tragedy that he suffered with Alzheimer's, I wish on no person. We'll be back.
Kevin Jackson
on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.